Wow. Welcome to episode 1 of Cope. My name is Neha Deseja, and I'm so happy to have you guys join us today. It's been a passion project of mine to not only share my own story, but share the stories and inspiring people, the lives of the people around me as well, one of whom is sitting with me right now, my awesome friend, Sarah White.
Hello.
So, I don't know if you know about me that much, but in terms of what got me to my mat was unhealthy relationship with alcohol in a previous life where I used to be a graphic designer, and anorexia, bulimia that kind of went along with it. And yoga was one of the things that definitely pulled me out. I'm still working on myself, still working on having a healthy relationship with myself, but yoga's definitely played a huge part in that. The issue that I have with the world around me at the moment, and Sarah and I were just talking about this too, is that all of us go around putting on a veil of fine on when most of us are not so fine. And with people especially dealing with addictions or eating disorders or stresses and trying to figure out how best to cope, well, this was the whole point of this project. So thank you so much for listening, and let's enjoy the conversation that we're about to have with Sarah. So welcome to the show, Sarah.
Thank you very much.
So tell us what you're about to do, where you're about to go, and where you've been.
Okay, so what I'm about to do is commit to my yoga teaching full time. I'm going to quit my job as cabin crew to follow my passions, but the only reason I started yoga was just over 2 years ago. I found myself in a bit of a, awful situation. It's the standard story of a breakup gone wrong, but I was suffering from really bad anxiety and low self-esteem. I couldn't function. If I was in public, I would literally be on the verge of panic attacks. And I remember looking around thinking that everyone was looking at me and knew what a worthless piece of shit I was. So I broke down one time in IKEA, and I said to myself, do you know what, I need something that I need to fix it. So I found myself at urban yoga, probably in one of your classes, straight away. And yeah, that's how I started my journey. But I think yoga was the only hour of my day where I actually felt I was worth something, and it was actually worth getting out of bed for, because it would just stop the racket that would happen in my head.
I met with a life coach recently, and it was an interesting question that he asked me, and it felt a lot like synesthesia. And he asked me this. He said, have you ever thought about what emotions feel like in your body? Like, what reactions do you have? And in the first moment, I don't know, I blanked, because I never think about when I'm happy, what is my physical response to that? Is my heart beating faster? Am I hot? Am I cold? Do I feel kind of goosebumps, or what is it? And I don't know. Have you ever thought about, like, when you say panic attack, what did that mean for you in your body?
I actually read something the other day that was about, I think something like emotions last something between 10 or 15 seconds, and it's actually your brain that takes over, which does the rest afterwards. And yeah, so when I'm panic attacking or when I have my anxiety, it was a lot to do with the breath. So I noticed my breath would rise first, and then my heart would start beating. That in turn, when you think about it, like logically, your temperature goes up, like I start burning up. And then that's when the mind comes in. So then I start panicking, and I'm like, oh my God, what's wrong with me? Then I get the shakes and weak legs. Actually, I never thought about that before.
So literally like a quiver in the legs.
Yeah, like very unstable. Like I couldn't hold myself up.
And a lot of your job is on a plane where you're walking around having to talk to people. So what happens when you have a panic attack at work?
Oh, so this is the scariest bit, and this is why I hope some cabin crew are listening, because like you say, Dubai is not a place where people speak openly about it. With our jobs especially, we go to work and we put on a uniform, and we're working not only around strangers in the aircraft, but the people that we are working with, we met 2 hours before we meet the passengers. So they have no idea who you are, where you're from, whether you're having a good day or a bad day, and you feel like you can't talk. So I remember I was on a Lagos flight, and even when I was walking through the airport, I was getting super bad anxiety to the point I got stopped in the temperature gauge, and they asked me if I felt all right, because they have the scanners for like Ebola and stuff.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, I was fine, but because someone was speaking to me, I started panicking again. And then I found myself, when the passengers were boarding, that unable to cope, I went and locked myself in the toilet and I just broke down.
Wow.
And the scariest bit is because I felt I couldn't talk to anyone about it because I know no one around there. I pulled myself out the toilet, put on the face and did the flight, and no one knew.
That's crazy. I mean, I have those days, and I think those days are the toughest for yoga teachers. It's like, I feel hypocritical because I come into class, I'm having a really shit day. The last thing I want to do is stand in front of a group of people and inspire them. And you have to get through the class, and if people want to have a chat after, you're having a chat after. Those are hard days.
Oh, for sure.
Those are hard days, and it's just about, are you going to be real at all times, or are you going to choose to be professional? And that's always a question. I wish it was okay to be real all the time. Oh, sure. I mean, if there's ever a profession where that's okay, it should be yoga teaching.
That's very true.
But it's not always, because nobody's walking around, kind of bearing their all and kind of sharing whatever's going on in their lives. Everyone's pretending to be fine. Yeah. So you got to be fine as well. Exactly. You got to be finer than everyone else. So cool. Well, what was different about the experience that you went through that brought you to yoga?
What do you mean?
As in, like, why, at what point, like when you decided it was going to be a yoga class that you go to, like who brought your attention to that? Or had you been always practicing and said, okay, this is the time I'm going to dedicate myself? Or what was it? What switched?
No, this is actually quite hilarious. So I'd always wanted to do yoga. My boyfriend at the time told me if I did yoga, he would dump me. Because,
yeah. Are you serious?
Saying it out loud, I'm like, oh my god, I was that person. But yeah.
Why would he dump you if you practiced?
Just because of past experiences of his with an ex-girlfriend. But he was like, yeah, all these yoga people, blah, blah, blah. So I was always drawn, because I was a gymnast before. So anything with that kind of movement, I'm not going to lie, I was more attracted to the movement of it to start with. So when that relationship went wrong and I found myself so low, I was like, okay, now's the time to actually try it, And for me to get into that class to start with, like, I was shaking. I'd be the last one in. I'd be in the corner of the room and I would not even look at anyone until I started practicing. Like, I just could not. So even just getting out of that comfort zone for me was a massive thing. But whenever I did it, the benefits afterwards completely outweighed. Like, I'd walk out and I'd actually feel human again. And I was like, right, if the price I've got to pay is actually shaking and feeling very uncomfortable until it starts, then that's it. You just got to carry on doing it.
So since we are talking about coping, before you found your practice, what were you doing to cope with anxiety and panic attacks?
Oh, this sounds really bad. So to start with, I found myself, so I was super anxious to the point where I couldn't sleep. And also the cabin crew life, the jet lag's up and down. So I'd be taking sleeping tablets, melatonin, but also numbing myself with vodka on the sofa before I could do anything. Just to, like we were saying before, I think you are craving such a release from your mind and everything going around, that anything that kind of numbs it and stops you from feeling so intensity is the first thing that you go to.
And do you find that you still kind of crave that numbness, or is it sort of gone away, or are you dealing with it? Is it under control, or what's the situation now?
I don't crave that numbness, but I think I've just told myself it's okay to feel. So even when I'm having my really bad anxious days, for one, I won't have coffee because it'll make me worse, but it's kind of, I gave myself other coping mechanisms to go through with it. So I don't want to put this other not so great things into my body, and it's fakeness, do you know what I mean? It'll never last. So you're taking a pill to make you sleep, but then what happens when you stop taking it? Or it's the same, like, okay, you're drinking to get numb, but what happens the next morning when you wake up and the feelings are still there, you know? So it's about making healthier choices rather than the easiest ones.
So what are some of the healthier coping mechanisms that you use now?
So now, to start with, I actually got a colouring book, which sounds ridiculous as an adult, but any type of, I call it like meditation without thinking about sitting cross-legged on a pillow burning incense. So anything where you can bring your mind to the present, whether it be colouring, painting, some people cook, you go for a walk, you count your steps. It's anything that kind of draws your attention to the present and your mind's not going back and forth. I also started with a gratitude practice. So every day before I go to bed, I'd think of 10 things that would make me happy.
I love that.
Yeah.
I really do love that.
And the shocking thing was, at the start, I couldn't even think of 10 things. And I think that's a big indicator of what's going on in your mind and actually the quality of your mind. So if you can't think of 10 things that are happy throughout the day, imagine your mind throughout the day, how negative it's got to be and how much it builds up. So when I first started, even though I was feeling so horrible, I started looking for things that could go onto the list at night. So then simple things like hearing a bird sing, or a baby would be laughing, or you'd literally see like two genuine people in love. I'd be like, damn, that's happiness, like that's going in my list. So then the switch of perspective actually made me appreciate more the tiny things in life. And you look around you then and you're like, man, okay, you might feel alone, but there's so much genuine connection out there if you're just looking for it.
I love that. I really love that practice, because sometimes we're so in our heads about, and it's easy to focus on all the stuff that's not working, right?
Yep.
And we constantly need to be aware of the fact that we have bodies that work.
Exactly.
There is no lack of anything. Like, there are people out there in the world that are,
we're fed, we're watered, we can move. Most of us has family that loves us, okay, albeit at the other side of the world, but what's a phone call away?
Yeah, exactly. So tell me a little bit about the fact that you fly for, like, you crew for Emirates,
yeah.
But then you've made a decision to completely change into a career. You're planning to become a yoga teacher,
yeah.
And that's not really a transition into a job within the company. That's a completely different career path altogether. Tell me a little bit about that, how that came about, and how you're dealing with the anxiety that comes with that.
Oh dear. So how did that come around? So I know within 6 months of practicing yoga how much it was giving me. Like, I wouldn't say it fixed me totally, and it still doesn't, like, it's an ongoing journey, you always know. But the benefits of how it was making me feel, I knew exactly if anyone was going through the stuff that I did or something similar, or even maybe worse, I wanted to give that back to people. And it's literally like, it's such a soft energy, but it's so powerful that 6 months in, I was like, right, I want to dedicate my life to this. So that's where the passion started. How I got to my yoga teacher training was literally by fate, because there was one opening in Dubai. Because I thought, I'll have to quit my job, I'll have to just go out on a whim, do a month out in India or Thailand, and then see what happens. But I managed to find a course where I could do it over a year. And doing it over a year for me was, how can I say it? It was, for me, perfect, because it was a whole year of self-transformation, actually building myself up so I could get back. Now I'm to the point where that's all completed and I'm transitioning, and yes, it's scary, but I always say the biggest thing that this whole path, the way, even like the things that seem bad to start with, have literally been my power. Like, me feeling this rubbish and crap about myself is the instigator to why I'm even doing yoga now and wanting to give it back, and why I'm still in Dubai. That's the biggest thing. So that faith that I have that everything's kind of unfolding as it should be is how I deal with the anxiety of, oh my God, I'm quitting my job, I haven't got a stable income. And this is another thing that got me. Everyone who I tell that I'm quitting my job always say, oh, but have you got a partner supporting you? And I'm like, no, not at all. Like, someone expects it, you know? And that gives me anxiety because I'm like, man.
Well, in this town, that's the way it works, right? I mean, it's an expensive town to live in. And you know, either you're doing this because you're passionate about it and you want to share your passion, and you can sort of afford to kind of teach 1 or 2 classes, you know, 3 classes or 4 classes a week, and you've got a partner at home, and you're kind of your wife or your mom, and you're doing this in your free time. There are a few of us who are doing this full time, and this is our livelihood, for better or for worse. I mean, I think there are pluses and minuses to both. But yeah, it's a hustle.
So comments like that is what really shake me up, and I'm like, oh man, am I doing the right thing? But again, it just comes back to the faith that I have with it. And kind of another thing I've learned is non-expectation. Just to go in openly, see what happens. If it doesn't work, then it's not meant for me.
I love that. I think faith is something that I think you stumble upon it through an experience that you have, but I don't think we're ever taught to be just sort of feel our way through life. It's like you have to have a plan. What's your 5-year plan? What's your 10-year plan? And the irony of that is you might be dead tomorrow.
Exactly.
So
and you set yourself up like you have this 5-year plan. I can guarantee it doesn't ever go like that. So why are you setting yourself up for a massive fall when really you can just flow with it? I think as well with the faith issue, as soon as I say faith or God, everyone goes into their big religious nut. And especially I think in this country as well, you say faith and it's always attributed to religion, but there's a way to believe and have faith without actually.
But I think you're kind of saying I have faith in myself. It's not in my sort of capabilities or I'm the shit. No. It's the faith that I'm going to be resilient enough because I was before. The faith that I'm going to be okay regardless of what happens because I've already been there and I've done it before.
It's because once you go from a low point and you've worked yourself up, you have that inner strength and you're like, do you know what? Stuff can happen to me and I'll find a way through it like I did before. I'll find a way to cope.
I think what you said earlier as well is so important because I look back on my life as well and I wouldn't change a thing. I mean, it's scary for me to even think of what I've been through. It's been hell and not just for me, but like addiction has a way of taking over the lives of the people you care about too. Like, no, I'm suffering on my own, but that's not true. No. Everyone around you is suffering with you. And the fact that they can't seem to find a way to help you, it makes it even harder for them. But having gone through all of it and coming out the other side of that, thankfully, been given the chance to like do something else with my life, I wouldn't change a damn thing because as you said, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for what I went through.
And I think that energy as well, it passes on. So I'm drawn to you and was drawn to you from your classes from the start because you had such a realness to it. And so you spoke from the soul, like it wasn't this spiritual, how can I say it, namby-pamby that people put out there, like you have to be fine, everything's all good. Like once you start speaking about it and people can see that authenticity to it, you attract and help so many people through that connection of suffering. Like we all go through it, we all suffer. But the fact is you can help more people with actually embracing it, speaking about it, because everyone goes through it. Everyone.
It's true. It's really true. I mean, it took me years to be okay with it, to be okay with talking about it. But I always wanted to be the person who did because I felt therapy. Like I love this teacher that's coming to Dubai in September. His name is Les Leventhal. He's been through, addiction as well. He's been through a life of hell before he found yoga, and he had gotten to a place in his teaching where he was giving back and helping people without knowing it by sharing his story. And it's important. As a teacher, people look up to you, they put you on a pedestal, but the thing is you're still human. And you go through shit and you're not perfect. As I said earlier in a post that I wrote not too long ago, you drink coffee, you have non-vegetarian food. It doesn't make you a bad person, it makes you human.
Yeah.
And the fact that you can turn around and be a little bit vulnerable with people helps them feel like they can share with you, and that the fact that you're going through stuff, you're coping, and that they can do it too.
And to know you're not alone. That's the biggest thing.
That you're not alone.
Yeah. I struggled so much with loneliness at the start, and I thought, man, I'm doing this all on my own. And at the start, I started to get obsessed. Like I would completely be crying because I thought, man, I have nothing and no one. But then it turned into a kind of, okay, I've got nothing and no one, I'm going to do this by myself. And it's only up until now where I actually see, man, this past like over 2 years, I thought I was on my own. But now when I look and I see people like you, people that I've met on board, people that I've met in the yoga class in different places in Dubai, where I was resilient and saying, no, I've done it on my own, when actually they're having more to do with my healing and to do with my progress than me myself.
I think there is a part, anytime you're going through addiction or anytime you're going through suffering, as you call it, I think there is a conscious decision on your part to stop it, because you're the only one that can. I remember when I was going through my addiction, of course I knew what I was doing to myself was wrong. But did I want to stop? No, until one day I did. And it was me. And it was the more people who were yelling in my ear about stopping, it was making me want to go away and drink more. If someone turned around to you and said, stop panicking, all you're going to do is panic more.
Yeah, exactly.
So when you make that decision, yes, you work on yourself a lot. But then letting people in, and I'm not good at this either. I just want to do it all by myself.
Me too.
But letting people in is one of the best things that you can do. And I think it's one of the things that I've been talking about as well. It's like being vulnerable is the new strong.
Yeah.
Being soft is the new strong.
And actually being open to not just the good things in life, but being open to the stuff that actually you can feel it. It's like you have a thorn, right? So there's something in there that touches the thorn, and as soon as it does that, to keep yourself open to it, to actually be able to feel and experience it, these are the places where you need to heal the most.
So tell me this. So in terms of sitting with emotions, do you do that kind of like how do you do it? Is it meditation, or what do you do? Like sitting with emotions, like how is it that you kind of sit with them?
If it's anxiety, then yes, I'll meditate. There's an app called Insight Timer. It's awesome. It has guided meditations, podcasts, talks, even music that you can put on. So for anxiety, and the breath work for me and anxiety, that's like one in the same, because I'm telling my body first to slow down, and then the mind catches up after it just from the breath. But I think when it comes to like the loneliness, or say if I'm just having a really awful day, I hate the way I look, I feel fat, because every woman goes through it, I think you just have to give yourself permission to feel it. And if you don't want to do nothing that day, say, okay, today is the day where you do nothing. You can sit in it, don't get yourself carried away with it. Say tomorrow's a new day, but you have to feel it like you're only human, like you said. You can't keep blocking it out and blocking it out and blocking it out, because what good does that do? Like, we are built to feel, and that's not just feeling the good sides. It's not just feeling the happiness, the joy, it's feeling the depression, the sadness, the loneliness, everything else that comes with it.
Being okay with that.
Yeah. Completely embracing it. Like, it's just part of being human. And then it's like duality, right? You have to feel the bad in order to know what the good feels like. Because if we were all walking around happy, we wouldn't know any different, and we wouldn't know what happy was. So
if someone asked you how you were doing, what would your answer be?
It depends. Am I at work or not? That's a good question, because usually I'm like, yeah, I'm good, how are you? And it's an automatic response that we all have. Only with maybe a select of my closest little circle, I'll admit it and be like, no, I'm shit.
But just it's important to have that core group of people that you can be real with, right? So important.
Yeah, this is the biggest thing. My sister God bless her if she's listening to this, or I'm going to make her. When I was down and out, oh my God, my phone bill must have been massive because I just used to ring her. I remember being in the car and I wanted to go somewhere and I didn't know where. And I'd ring her and I'd be crying, but I'd be angry and I'd be sad. And I'm like...
I've done that too.
It's mental, but she's always been the one person where I'm like, I admit 100% my feelings, and that kind of output to have was one of the best, and I'm so grateful for it, Laura, if you're listening, things I've ever had, because it's like, you need to release it.
Yeah. Completely
release it. And if you have someone who is so patient, even though she's got 3 kids, to still listen to a little sister crying and breaking down over the phone, then it's just amazing.
Like, I went through therapy when I was in India. I went to a therapist because my family was like, clearly you have issues. Let's go take you to somebody who can sort them out. It was a complete stranger, and I didn't want to have a chat with a stranger. And my mom used to be sitting in the room with me as well. And the guy was like, okay, let's talk about your feelings for a couple of minutes, and then, all right, well, let's give you some pills to make everything feel better. And I started to take the pills, but then I noticed after 1 month of taking the pills that the pills weren't going away.
Yeah.
And depression runs in our family, and everyone's on pills.
Yeah.
And I was just like, screw this. Like, I just don't feel like I need this. Like, yeah. I'm a yogi. Like, I am strong enough in my mind where I'm making a choice to kill myself, but I'm also going to make the choice to heal myself.
Yeah. And I think, especially with medication these days, people think, okay, I take this pill, I'm better, but no, you're just numbing, again, the symptoms. Like, the underlying problems that you have are still going to be there. Yes, it might relieve it for some time, but I think you've also got to actively work on going through that shit yourself.
So, I mean, for you, yoga is a big part of your life. When I came to my mat, I mean, I'm so happy, touch wood, like, I haven't had, like, serious injury, because I used to push. Like, I was working my shit out on my mat. And what do you think about your practice and what it gives you? Or do you feel like you've kind of almost gotten to a place where you've abused your practice at all? Or, you know, is it fine, or has it changed over time? Tell me a little bit.
When I first started, again, I pushed hard, probably harder than my body was expecting. It was more, okay, so a lot of vinyasas, but I was also forcing myself into places where I didn't need to be. And I'd be coming out and I'd be like, oh, my back's sore, or I know my left knee now, because I'm hyperextended and I never realised this, but I used to oversplit all the time just because it looks good on Instagram, I'm not going to lie. And I'd be forcing myself, and again, it's abuse of the body, you know what I mean? Like, wanting to get there, and it was ego-based. Like, yes, I wanted to be the best, I wanted to show everyone that I was okay and I can do these amazing things, whereas once I started to slow down, and this was more in tune with my teacher training, because it was more hatha-based, my practice started to slow. And this is when I really delved inward about what's going on and what I can feel, and these emotions and it's crazy how much is stored into your body and how much can come up. And these were the times where I remember I'd be in Pigeon and I would just be crying, and I'm like, damn, but it's a release that you need. So now I think I'm more careful with my body. There's obviously still ego based there that I want to push and get to a place, but like anything, with time you're going to open up. And it's the same, and it's knowing the balance of, okay, pushing what's good for you and feeling it, but not pushing it so far to the point of injury, because like we were saying earlier, my body now is
your bread and butter.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's so much more sacred, so I feel like I listen more now, whereas before I was just killing it.
Has there been a change at all in your eating habits? Like, were you a different person when it came to food before? Has anything changed around there based on your yoga practice or your awareness about yourself?
Yeah, so I was already pescatarian when I started yoga. That was purely for health, because one Christmas I had 3 Christmas dinners, ate too much meat, and I was going on holiday and I wanted to look good on a bikini. So I quit the meat. I started eating fish, but then I become vegetarian quite quickly into my yoga. It just felt natural for me to do. I felt more clean, I had more energy. Then I was looking into gut health as well. So whatever happens in your gut actually is sending chemicals all around your body and linked to so many different diseases, even like mentally as well. And then last September is when I actually took the plunge, and I was like, right, I went strict vegan. And from that point, I don't know.
So vegan is no dairy,
no dairy,
no
no
meat.
eggs, no meat, nothing animal based. I'll never preach it to anyone. I'll never say that it's for everyone. I think you have to be ready for it and have the right back into it. But as part of like the non-suffering, when I went vegan, my whole body, my strength, everything, I think because it's a mental thing as well, because I know I'm having less of an impact in the world, I'm not causing any harm to myself, that it makes you feel more pure. Whether that's an ego thing as well, but it completely helps me. And now I can't eat so much crap, because I used to eat a lot of sugar as well with my job. And yeah, you just become more aware, because I have to look at everything before I eat it. You become more aware of actually what you're putting in your body and how it feels, and then you know that if you eat something, you can feel it straight away if it's good for you or not. So you have that kind of heightened awareness with it.
Absolutely. No, I find that too. It's like, okay, I'm, the love relationship with myself, it's a work in progress, and it will be for a while. It's taken me a long time to get to the place where I'm like, okay, maybe I should really take a look at everything that I'm eating. I mean, I went from like 7 cups of coffee a day to down to 2. Whether I want to give up coffee completely, I don't know.
I tried for 3 months, I cannot.
But every day I have a little bit more respect for my body. I mean, it is a magical thing. Yeah. And it is the machine that's driving everything at the moment. So if there is no body, there is no yoga practice.
Exactly, and I see it, your body's your machine to experience this whole world with, right? So it's like your car. If your car needs an MOT and you need to get somewhere, people in Dubai, they're straight there, you know what I mean? You need it fixed because you need to go. But they don't listen to the machine they're actually in. And when you feel fit and healthy and you can do things and strong, life becomes almost easier, because you can get up without aches and pains.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And you don't even realize that it might not be your practice that's causing you tightness or fatigue. It's actually your eating habits or your sleeping habits. Amazing. Well, I just want to wrap up today with a couple of things that you're reading at the moment. Tell me what you're reading.
What am I reading? Oh, The Untethered Soul.
I've got that on my Kindle as well.
You have? Yeah. I have to really concentrate with it, because it says so many things on how you can, like, how to think your way through life, basically. What else is on my reading list? I'm not reading it at the moment, but I feel like everyone needs to know about the book Conversations with God. This book literally changed my life. When it comes to like self-esteem and confidence, this is the book that actually said, you know what, you're okay to be you. Whatever you want to do, just do it. Like, listen to your heart. So it's not a religious book as everyone thinks. It's actually sometimes seen as quite the opposite. But if you're looking for some inspo, definitely this one.
You mentioned Power of Now.
Yes, the Power of Now was the catalyst. I was on holiday in Spain, and I was so upset. I was thinking like about my ex and how he did me wrong and how he was treating me, and about the future and how, what am I going to do without it and all this. And I was super upset. Like, I was crying literally every hour of the day. And I remember just reading a passage in this book that said, if you think about the moment that you're in right now, the stuff that's making you upset is either happened in the past or you're thinking about the future. But what have you got to be sad for right now, right this moment? And it was like a light bulb went off in my head. I was like, wow. My tears just, I was in shock. They just stopped, and I was like, it is so right. Like, all my thoughts were either behind me or in front of me, and all these emotions didn't need to happen in the moment that I was in. And that was the book that actually made me book my flight home, and that's when I knew it was the start of something awesome, which happens to be why I'm talking to you right now.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Well, Sarah, thank you so much for sharing your story. I know it's not easy to talk about stuff, but thank you so much. I think you're going to help so many people out there just to know that they're not alone in what they're going through, and that everyone's dealing, everyone's coping the best that they can.
And it's okay to speak about it. We all need an outlet, right?
And I think as a yoga teacher, I can tell you that one of the things that we're kind of in the room for is to inspire, but I cannot tell you how inspiring some of the people that come into class are, including yourself. So thank you for being such an amazing person and such an amazing yogi, and I cannot wait to take your class.
Awesome, you're making me blush.
I love you, babe.
Love you too.
Thank you.